What's up, Alabama fans? It's Andrew Bone here with BamaInsider.com. Just bringing you guys a post early signing period update of kind of everything that went on National Signing Day, which we expected most to happen, and obviously it was a great day for Alabama, finishing as the number 2 recruiting class in the country during this early signing period. So there's still a little bit of time left for Alabama to potentially add some more targets and maybe creep into that number 1 spot between now and the first Wednesday in February. So we'll talk a little bit about what happened on signing day. Then we'll talk about some of the big members of this recruiting class, and also I'll toss out a name or two of guys that you guys need to pay attention to over the course of the next month. But I did put out a complete list. Well, not a complete list, but 5 targets who Alabama fans need to pay attention to over the course of the next month, who could potentially end up in Alabama's 2020 class. So that story's already up on BamaInsider.com. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, sign up for a membership. Get that subscription to Bama Insider, 1-year membership. You also, with that 1-year membership, you also get a $75 gift card to the Nike team store. So you're still looking for that last minute Christmas idea, last minute Christmas gift for a friend, family member, whoever it may be. Give the gift that keeps on giving with the BamaInsider.com subscription. So I think either you're going to love it or anybody that you buy it for is going to love it. So let me break it down for you in terms of what happened on signing day on Wednesday. Obviously, I thought heading into the day, the biggest thing for Alabama was just keeping everybody on board, keeping all your top commitments on board. The guys that you were expecting to sign, get them to sign. Don't have any big flips. Don't have anything that you weren't expecting to happen. I think Alabama went into the day, kind of having a good idea of what was going to happen, and I think everything they thought was going to happen happened. They were able to keep Tim Smith on board, which I thought was probably the biggest, the biggest news of signing day was Alabama keeping Tim Smith, who is one of their top overall targets, a guy that could potentially be a first-round NFL draft pick 3 or 4 years down the road. Monster defensive lineman, 6'4.5", about 320 pounds, and just moves extremely well for his size. I thought he was very critical to this recruiting class, and they were able to hold on to him. Anybody else that they were kind of worried about, I don't think they were worried, but they were probably keeping an eye on it. Bryce Young is started getting a lot of talk that there might be a flip back to USC. Now, Bryce Young and his father confirmed that was not going to happen, but there was a little bit of talk of maybe holding off until in terms of signing on Wednesday. But he went ahead and did that, and then we also were watching Trayshawn Holden, the 4-star wide receiver out of California. Trayshawn was definitely, courted pretty heavily by Arizona State. Took a visit to Arizona State 2 weekends ago. A lot of people look and says, Alabama or Arizona State, easy choice. Well, mom's out in California. Arizona State had been recruiting him for a very long time. They've done a really good job recruiting him with their coaching staff, and he really liked it out there. His teammate Jordan Banks signed with Arizona State. So even though it may seem simple to people like us that are in Tuscaloosa or in Birmingham or in the state of Alabama or an Alabama fan anywhere in the world, you kind of think, oh, well, that's an easy choice, Alabama over Arizona State. But sometimes people want to stay a little bit closer to the family, have a little bit more familiarity with people who are attending that school. But he did what he thought was best for him, which was sign with Alabama, and Alabama didn't have to worry about that moving forward. So the only other guy who committed to Alabama on signing day was Jace Mcclellan. Rivals 100 running back out of the state of Texas. Been committed to Oklahoma for a very long time, but Alabama did a tremendous job recruiting him. It was kind of interesting. I actually heard heard some word, and I won't say who it is, but we had heard that another running back reached out to Alabama on Wednesday about jumping on board. But Alabama had already taken a commitment from Jace Mcclellan. They already had Kyle Edwards and Roydell Williams on board, so 3 running backs. They were going to take a 4th running back. That was going to be very, very tough to do. So they decided not to do that, even though someone did reach out to them. They decided not to take a 4th running back in this class, which I thought taking 3 running backs was definitely a something that we weren't expecting probably early on, but they ended up taking 3 running backs and being happy with the guys that they have on board. In terms of some of these other guys who ended up going elsewhere. Philip Webb, definitely was a big target for Alabama for a very long time. But you look at Alabama's recruiting class, especially at the linebacker position. I mean, you have a lot of really good edge rushers. Quandarius Robinson, Chris Braswell, William Anderson, Drew Sanders. I mean, they are just absolutely stacked. I thought that was going to be, maybe the cherry on top for this linebacker class, who I think is the best linebacker class in the Nick Saban era. I think Philip Webb would have definitely been an added bonus, but he ends up going to LSU as we imagined and as we predicted. So another guy, Arian Smith, ends up picking Georgia over Alabama. Alabama did a really good job, I thought, recruiting him for a very long time. I thought maybe the biggest thing they did where they kind of messed up was when they brought him in for an official visit. Now, that's not to say that he wouldn't have chosen Georgia anyway, but with Alabama bringing him in for an official visit during the LSU game weekend, he didn't get there until late. I think he got there like right before kickoff happened. Left on Sunday, early Sunday afternoon. So really only spent about 24 hours in Tuscaloosa for your official visit, and he ends up going over to Georgia the weekend before signing day. Spent a lot of time over there. I think he was there from all day Friday, all day Saturday, half the day Sunday. So getting to spend a little bit more time, learning about the program, having your family kind of learn more about the academic side of things. I think that definitely helps any program out, and I think it definitely helped Georgia out in terms of being able to get him on campus a little bit more than Alabama. But another big shock on signing day, Rakim Jarrett. I got a call, from our East Coast guy, Adam Friedman, on Wednesday morning, saying that he was hearing that Jarrett was possibly going to go ahead and sign, even though Rakim Jarrett had come out and said that he wasn't going to make a decision, that he was going to wait until February to sign, that it was a school policy. Well, we ended up seeing his teammate, Mikel Sherman, sign his letter of intent early on Wednesday morning to Georgia. So we kind of knew that that really wasn't the case. If they wanted to go ahead and sign, they could go ahead and sign. And there was definitely a lot of talk about Rakim Jarrett in Alabama over the course of the last few months. He took an official visit to Alabama. He said a couple months ago that it was Alabama or LSU for him, even though he'd been committed to LSU for a long time. We took an official to Maryland. I think it was 2 weekends ago. And man, what a big win for Mike Locksley. I mean, getting a 5-star wide receiver commitment, from right in your backyard, winning a big recruiting battle over LSU and Alabama, getting him to flip from LSU on signing day. I thought that was huge for Coach Locksley. Should really help out Maryland's football program in the future, knowing that they can go in and get a lot of their top in-state talent or area talent to come to Maryland. So that was a big win for them. Big loss for Alabama because you look at Rakim Jarrett going to Maryland, Keyshawn Boutte sticking with LSU as we expected, and then Arian Smith going to Georgia. I thought Alabama really needed to get one more pass catcher in this class. I'm sure they're kind of looking around, seeing who's still available, but I think they were definitely thinking heading into the Wednesday that Rakim Jarrett was still going to be an option throughout the month of January, that they could recruit, potentially bring back in for an unofficial visit and kind of see what happens in February. But now they missed out on him, missed out on Arian Smith, so kind of have to regroup and see who's still available. One other guy who made a decision that we were kind of watching was Jordan Burks. And as I told everyone, and a lot of people have, called us out on it and said, "Oh, you couldn't make a prediction on it. Why not?" Well, good luck making a prediction on Jordan Burks, because guess what? He still hadn't. I don't even know if he signed his letter of intent yet. And we're sitting here on Friday. talking to all the different, people that we talk to, whether that's sources in Tuscaloosa, Athens, Georgia, uh, Columbia, Clemson, Baton Rouge, you know, LSU and Georgia were extremely confident in Jordan Burks. So when both those sides are confident, you really don't know which one to lean towards because those guys are pretty spot on. I mean they have a good grasp on what's going on. We weren't sure what was going on Alabama's side. I know Alabama was still in communication. Clemson felt like they had a good chance, and then South Carolina was just kind of sitting there, really just kind of waiting to see what he was going to do. And they had continued to hear some good things. And Jordan Burks announces to South Carolina on Wednesday. So obviously big home run win for the Gamecocks. And as long as I haven't even seen if he's officially signed yet, but if they can get him signed, I mean that was obviously a huge win for Coach Muschamp. And I guess the final guy that we will talk about who did or did not sign on Wednesday is Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington, the 5-star tight end out of Las Vegas, announced on Tuesday that he was not going to sign, that he was going to wait. Still announced on January the 2nd at the Under Armour All-America game, but he did not sign on Wednesday, even though he kind of sent out a cryptic tweet with a couple of emojis indicating that he had signed. We're hearing that he did not, so that's definitely somebody that we'll continue to monitor, continue to watch over the course of the next few weeks until he makes that decision. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, all these schools, still all feel like they have a chance to get him when he announces that decision. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about the class real quick. Just my overall thoughts. Bryce Young, obviously the face of the recruiting class, can be flipped from USC back in September to Alabama. Number 3 overall player in the Rivals 100. He's going to be enrolling early. Definitely a big get for Alabama and somebody that they have a lot of faith in, a lot of confidence in terms of being a big time player in Tuscaloosa. Reminds me a lot of Tua coming out of high school, just kind of the way he carries himself, his demeanor. He's got a tremendous pocket presence. I mean, he's just doesn't really get affected at all. I mean, he can beat you with his arm or his legs. Had over 4,500 yards passing as a senior, 58 touchdowns, another 10 touchdown runs. So just a tremendous talent there. And if you haven't watched any of our videos, you can go back and look at every single video. We have an analysis on every single player that signed with Alabama on Wednesday. Go watch that on BamaInsider.com. You can also just search on YouTube, look at our Bama Insider YouTube channel, and watch those analyses. We're talking about every single one of these Alabama signees and kind of what they mean and who recruited them in this recruiting class. Running back position. 3 running backs. As I mentioned earlier, we did hear that at least one running back who is not committed yet did reach out to Alabama, see if they still had any space left, but Alabama completely full at running back. 3 running back commitments. Jace Mcclellan flipping from Oklahoma to Alabama on Wednesday. Roydell Williams, Rivals 100 running back out of Hueytown High School, and then also Kyle Edwards out of Destrehan High School, 4-star running back out of Louisiana, who had just a fantastic senior season. Alabama signed 2 wide receivers, Trayshawn Holden, Thal Jones-Bell, both those guys enrolling early at Alabama. 1 tight end in Caden Clark, offensive lineman. 2 were announced, Seth McLaughlin. And then Javion Cohen flipping from Auburn to Alabama about a week and a half ago. And then, Damian George, I expect something to get announced. I mean, he has not is officially signed or announced his signature or anything yet, but I don't think there's anything to worry about there. I think he's pretty solid. And would not be surprised if we saw something announced, at some point. We'll just see when that happens. Defensive line. I mean, obviously, humongous win for Tim Smith. Keeping him on board. Like I said, I think that was the biggest win for Alabama on signing day. Was keeping him. A lot of people were thinking, he was, leading up until maybe about 24 hours before signing day, that he was going to flip to Florida. We pretty much put a hard prediction down on him sticking with Alabama, but there was still a lot of talk that he was going to flip. He visited Florida about 7 or 8 times. Took that last weekend official visit to Florida. So definitely a lot of confidence coming out of Gainesville on for Tim Smith before probably right before Tuesday afternoon. I started hearing him around Tuesday afternoon that Alabama felt very confident in keeping him on board. So obviously a big win there. Jamarian Latham, he was Class 1A lineman of the year last year. I think he's probably gonna win it again this year. Most dominant lineman in almost in the state of Alabama this year on both sides of the football. And he's expected to just play on the defensive line, even though he plays the offensive line. Just expecting him to play on defense. William Anderson, William Anderson is 6'4", about 230 pounds. Could potentially grow into a defensive end. But right now, kind of thinking just Jack linebacker. This guy had 40 sacks over the course of the last 2 years. He had 22 as a junior, and everybody knows about him. And then he has another 18 as a senior. So when you're getting double and triple teamed because you know what kind of weapon you have on the defensive side of the ball, you're trying to block on the defensive side of the ball and still producing 18 sacks. I mean that's incredible. So I think Alabama's got a special player in here in him, and definitely somebody that's not talked about enough. I mean we talk about all these other defensive players that Alabama has in its class, but William Anderson, I think it's going to be a special talent, especially a guy that's going to be coming in early. There's a big need for pass rushers. Alabama's likely going to lose to Terrell Lewis. They're going to lose Anthony Jennings. They need some edge rushers, and I think he's the guy that's going to come in and make a big impact right away. Linebacker wise, I've talked about this several times. The best unit that Nick Saban has, the best linebacker of the unit that Nick Saban has been able to sign in his tenure at Alabama. I mean, you look at, even if you want to include William Anderson in that group, you still have, Chris Braswell, Demoy Kennedy, Quandarius Robinson, Drew Sanders, Jackson Bratton. I mean, just an overall incredible group of inside and outside guys. I mean, that was the position that really mattered the most in this class. Linebacker wise, I don't know if they're completely done at linebacker just yet. I actually threw out a name that looks like Alabama's evaluating and keeping an eye on at inside linebacker. That's on BamaInsider.com. Not going to tell you guys. You're going to have to go to BamaInsider.com to find that out. But I think that it's certainly a tremendous group. A lot of those guys are going to be enrolling early. Chris Braswell, Demoy Kennedy, Drew Sanders, Jackson Bratton. All those guys are getting there in January. So I think that's huge to get those guys on board. Defensive back wise, very strong unit. Ronald Williams, who Alabama really made their top tier target at cornerback, first team All-American, junior college guy. They really expect him to come in and play right away, and he's going to get there in January. So watch out for him. 6'1.5", 185 pounds. Definitely a major target for them, and they were very excited to get him on board. Last week he did. I think he announced. He announced on Friday. I can't remember exactly what day he announced. Everything's just kind of. It's been a wild week, but he committed on last Wednesday. I think maybe it was Saturday when he officially announced it, but it committed actually to Alabama on last Wednesday when they went in home for an in-home visit. Excuse me. Jaquez Robinson out of Sandalwood High School in Florida. He's actually already practicing with the team. Arrived in Tuscaloosa, I think, yesterday, and practiced with the team today. I mean, that's definitely crazy to think about. You sign your letter of intent with Alabama on Wednesday. You're already in Tuscaloosa practicing with the team. So getting him on board was definitely a big plus at the cornerback position. You look at safety, Malachi Moore. in-state guy that's been committed for almost 2 years. I definitely think that he's a very good player that is also enrolling early. And then Brian Branch, you know, kid that had an amazing senior season, shot up in the rankings, is in the Rivals 100. I think he's a tremendous talent. He reminds me a lot of Eddie Jackson, coming out of high school. Just a incredible athlete. He's got great ball skills, can play on either side of the ball. I mean, he had over 1,100 yards receiving on offense, and Alabama's expecting him just to play defense. So I think he's a guy that could be a potential first-round NFL draft pick down the road. And then Christian Story. Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Alabama, won a state championship, was the MVP of the state championship game, has the all-time career yards in the state of Alabama, all-time touchdowns in Alabama. I mean, he broke some major records this year. Recruited as an athlete, can play just about anything. I mean, he plays quarterback in high school, running back, can play wide receiver, can play safety, can play corner. He's 6'2", about 210 pounds. I think he's probably going to end up at safety, but you just never know. We've seen some tremendous athletes that have come into that Alabama has signed through the years that they just weren't sure what they were going, what position they were going to play, so they moved him around, and then finally found a home for him. We saw that with guys like Cyrus Jones, Trevon Diggs. Many guys. So we'll see what he ends up doing, what position he ends up playing. But I definitely think Alabama has a great kid in him. So what are we looking forward moving forward? I mean, Alabama, got the majority of their recruiting class on board on Wednesday. What are we kind of expecting moving forward? Well, there are still 3 guys that are committed to Alabama that have not officially signed yet. Jamil Burroughs, Javon Baker, nothing really to worry about with those guys. They're just going to wait for right now. They're going to sign in February. And then Jason Jones out of Calera High School. Really not sure what's going to happen with Jason just yet. It's kind of just a wait and see approach with him. He has taken some other visits, and I don't really know if Alabama has visited him over the course of the last month or so, and we'll kind of see what happens with him moving forward. But really not sure what's going to happen with his recruitment now. Alabama's still kind of trying to find, still looking around, seeing who's still out there, who's still available. Like I said, I just put a list of 5 guys on BamaInsider.com to kind of watch, see what happens with their recruitment. Obviously, many people know that we're all watching Darnell Washington and what happens with him on January the 2nd. But let's say Darnell Washington, ends up going somewhere else. Who does Alabama target at tight end? They're definitely going to target a tight end. They've already got one in mind that they're looking at, that they've been recruiting. I've got that name on BamaInsider.com. With Alabama missing on some wide receivers, I do think that they're going to look around and just see who's available. I mean, it's got to be a guy that they feel like can play at Alabama. They're not just going to go out and try to get any wide receiver that's out there. They may even just look at maybe a grad transfer or somebody who wants to transfer in. So, that's always an option that's on the table. And they'll kind of look around and see who's else. One name I will mention is Mckinley Jackson, because we've talked about McKinley for such a long time. Rivals 100 defensive tackle who was always planning on waiting until February to make his decision, announce his decision. Has the top 4 right now: Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, and Auburn. Those are his top 4 schools. He eliminated Ole Miss because of the firing of Matt Luke. Would not be surprised if we see Ole Miss get back in it with him. I'm sure they're going to try. Also, Georgia's has been reaching out to him because of the Matt Luke hiring and their relationship. So Georgia's trying to bring Mckinley Jackson in for an official next month. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on. But if you want the rest of the targets that Alabama's kind of going after right now, go to BamaInsider.com right now. I got a lot of great stuff up there in terms of post signing day coverage. Anything that you want to know about the signing period, what's going on after the early signing period, and we put up a superlative story yesterday, just kind of breaking down pretty much every target in the recruiting class, every signee in the recruiting class, and then I also did a post signing day Q&A on BamaInsider.com. So get on that. If you have any questions, go on there, ask me. I'll answer it right away every single day. So that's probably going to be our last video before Christmas. I want to go ahead and just thank all of you for watching it throughout these videos throughout the entire year. It's something that we had not normally been doing. Until this last year, and we picked up a tremendous following here. I hope you all have a great Christmas holiday. Enjoy the bowl season. Enjoy time with your families, and hopefully you guys will enjoy BamaInsider.com and come on over there and have some fun with us. But until the next decade, I wish you all well. Have a great holiday season, and we will see you in January. Thanks again. Bye.